Hey, welcome back to the cafe. Louis V here from Vinyl Latte, and I got a problem. I am drowning in new records. I'm not kidding. There is about 50 right here on my desk. I have all these records behind me. I also just recently picked up, a friend sent me a collection of his late aunt, which is, I'm calling the California collection. So I have all of those that I still need to get through. And then I have the Smithfield collection, which I bought for like $100, which is just boxes of records, boxes of 45s, boxes of standard LPs that I haven't even had a chance to go through. I am just, and at a point where it's almost overwhelming. It's almost too much music, but it's not stopping me from going out and hunting. I was just in Las Vegas. I picked up a bunch of records that are on their way to me. I had the record store ship them to me so I didn't have to worry about putting them in the luggage and getting damaged in transit that way. Plus also, I didn't want to have to pay extra to check my bag. It was cheaper to pay for shipping from the record store than to pay for the extra weight in the bag. But all I'm trying to say is, man, I got lots of content for you. All what this translates to is I got some content for you. Now, the records I'm going to share with you, they're not part of a collection. These are records I went out, hunt, and acquired. I'm going to try to get through about half of the ones that are on my desk today, so about 25 records. So this can be a long episode because we talk about the music as well. We don't talk about just the pressing. We talk about the music. And if you're new to the channel, I cover all genres. We're going to talk about rock. We're going to have some jazz. There's going to be some blues. There's going to be some funk, soul, I think, in here as well. It depends how far down the line we get and where the records are. But there's a lot of cool stuff. I think there's music for everyone. I am one of those guys who just listens to everything. I even listen to international music, and sometimes I don't even understand the lyrics, but the music just sounds beautiful to me. I'm just a lover of music, and I collect virtually everything. So, yeah, you never know what you're going to find on the channel. With that being said, I'm going to dive in and tell you a little bit about each one of these records. And I want you to be critical, man. You know, I got so many new records coming in. I need you to tell me, am I grabbing some good stuff here? And if do I have the right thought process? Am I finding the right pressings? Interact, man. I want you to tell me, man, you are stupid. What are you doing? Picking up those freaking records, you're picking up the worst pressings ever, or the worst albums ever, or you know, man, that's a really cool collection, or I love that album, or I haven't remembered that album in years, and you just brought back all this nostalgia. Interact with me. I love to interact. I try to reply to every single comment, so your efforts will not go unnoticed. If you're hateful and you're just being a jerk, well, I might just ignore you then. But I like to. How do you build a community? You communicate. It's inside of they're the same words, right? We got to be able to communicate with each other. Otherwise, you're watching this video alone, and I'm filming it and recording it and shipping it to you alone. And we never want to be alone. Music needs to be something we enjoy with others. Okay, anyway, off my soapbox. So I'm going to share with you some records. They're not in any sort of order. The first one might already get people to disconnect, but it's okay. The next one, it's probably going to be a good one. So let's start out with the 1967 pressing of the Beach Boys. This is Smiley, Smile. All right, let's talk about it for a moment. This album was often considered a lo-fi masterpiece, and it was recorded in Brian Wilson's home studio. Right after the ambitious Smile project was sort of abandoned. But what the song that I remember, that you remember, that we hear on the radio all the time is Good Vibrations. You know that song from the Beach Boys, Good Vibrations. Well, this is the album that it's on, and it's, you know, it's experimental. It's experimental pop, and that's what it is, an experimental pop classic that's really defined the band's sounds, even though this kind of came later. But yeah, man, what a just cool, iconic record. I actually found this particular record at my local. They had somebody trade in just a whole bunch of old classic rock and just, you know, a bunch of stuff from like the late 60s, 70s, and 80s, so that kind of genre of rock. And a lot of the albums I'm going to be sharing with you today fall into that category. The really cool thing is the guy was a record collector. All of the records are treated really well. They're in great condition. The records themselves are fantastic. So I was happy to add this particular one to the collection. It sounds good. I'm happy with it. And man, just that first track on side B is just such an awesome nostalgic song. It's one of the songs that when I think about the Beach Boys is what comes top of mind. All right, next up is one that a lot of people are going to know, a lot of people collect, is David Bowie's. This is Diamond Dogs. This is the 1980 US, and this really represents Bowie's, sort of transition from this glam rock to more of a darker dystopian concept, sort of inspired by George Orwell's 1984. Now, this original cover was a little bit graphic. There was a more noticeable area down here that ended up getting airbrushed and censored due to its provocative nature. This is not that pressing of the album. So I think this originally came out in 74 and this is the 80 US pressing. And it sounds good, so I'm really happy about it. It's just a cool album to add to the collection. And again, part of that rock collection that was traded in at the local. Onwards to Van Morrison, Astral Weeks. Now this one is a 2023 worldwide pressing on this, and Madame George. Oh yeah, Madame George, man. And what a mesmerizing blend of like folk, jazz, and blues, and it's probably hailed as Van Morrison's one of his greatest songs ever. And what's even more impressive is that this album was recording in just 3 days and is considered one of the greatest of all time, despite its initial poor performance. It didn't perform well when it came out, but this was really, really cool. This part of the Rocktober reissues that came out. I picked this up, I think, at Barnes & Noble. I've been looking for the limited edition, kind of olive green color of this album. I saw it at the Barnes & Noble, and I said, man, I'm going to go pick that up. It sounds great. I'm happy with it. Like it. It's a cool album. If you're not familiar, it's worth giving a spin. Part of that local collection we were talking about earlier, there was also a bunch of Black Keys albums donated, so maybe expand that also to some of the early 2000s. This is one of them. This is the Rubber Factory. This is the 2004 US pressing, and this was recorded in an abandoned tire factory, hence Rubber Factory, right? What's really cool about this, though, is that that recording, I don't know if it was just where it was recorded or whatever, but I think it just adds, if you know the backstory where this was recorded, it just adds to that raw, gritty sound. And I love it. It's a fantastic album. 10 a.m. Automatic is sort of a fan favorite, known for heavy riffs and bluesy energy. Really, really, really fun pressing. And this is actually the A7 misprint. So on this particular pressing, on the label, on side A, they actually have the lengths listed as the last track on side A, when it should be the first track on side B. So just kind of a fun mistake, if you will. It makes it a little bit more cool to have in a collection because it's a mistake. It's rare. It's already a limited edition to begin with, and then you add that whole misprint to it. It just adds to the collectability of it. In my opinion, I don't know. I find things like that fun. It's like finding a misspelled word in a book. You're like, oh, look what I found. It's already been, this is like the 4th reissue of this book, and you're still finding spelling mistakes. It's just, I don't know. It just, to me, just makes things sometimes a little bit more fun. Susan Tedeschi, Just Won't Burn, 2023, the reissue. I think I pre-ordered this reissue. What a cool album. If you're not familiar, do not let the cover of this album fool you. Okay? This is a blues rock record. This is not a sweet, innocent pop star that if you're not familiar with Susan, you might get the impression of, especially there's so many female pop artists, because the cover and the way this is put together sort of looks like a newer pressing, even though it was, 98 originally released. But for those that know, and this solidified her reputation as a powerhouse with her soulful voice and electrifying guitar skills. What a cool, freaking album. It Hurts So Bad is also just a really cool song. If you're not familiar, you want to give it a stream. It's very deeply emotional track showcasing her vocal prowess. I think you'll really, really enjoy that. What a great reissue. If you've been thinking about picking this up for whatever reason and you haven't, I would recommend it. It's a great, great reissue. Unless you have an OG that you're really happy with, you know, probably not needed to pick it up, but I didn't have an OG I was happy with, hence why I was excited to get the reissue. All right, for my jazz fans out there, how about the picture of Heath? This is Chet Baker, Art Pepper, and you also got Phil Urso on here, and this is a reissue on the Blue Note Tone Poet series, which is just a wonderful series. You can't go wrong with the Blue Note reissues, in my opinion. But this really captures the essence of West Coast jazz in its prime. Of course, you got the two legends, Baker and Pepper, which is really brought together in this rare collaboration. And on here you have Tie in Time, which is this classic jazz tune with the kind of like a remarkable improvisation interplay between the two just legends of jazz. Really cool, nice story in the back, just like all the old jazz records has. You know, mastered by Kevin Gray, RTI pressed, 180 gram vinyl. You can't go wrong. It sounds fantastic. I think you'll be really, really happy to grab that one. All right, it's time to kick it, maybe, baby, kick out the jams. This is the 2023 MC5 reissue, and man, this album is just known for its raw energy, and it's also very politically charged. It really, you know, I think this was recorded, if I recall right, live in Detroit. But I can tell you one thing I know for certain, it captures the essence of 60s sort of counterculture movement, man. And it is an awesome record. It's got so much energy. I remember when I was talking to somebody about this album, and we were flipping through it. It was a different pressing of this. It wasn't this pressing. I'm going to tell you about this pressing here in a moment. It wasn't this pressing. It was a different pressing. And the guy, the kid behind the counter had no idea what MC5. The kid's like, oh man, I keep hearing about this album, but I know nothing about it, but the cover looks cool. And I'm like, dude, you got to pick. Well, you work at a record store. I know you're younger, man, but you got to take some time and just get caught up with MC5. This is one of the greatest albums of all time. It's a Rolling Stones top 500 album of all time. You got to get familiar with it. Now, for me, I picked up this reissue because, quite frankly, I'm going to be honest with you. I was ordering from Rhino. This is part of that Rocktober. I was ordering from Rhino, and I needed free shipping. And this tipped the scales enough where I would get free shipping. So that's why I picked up this particular pressing of it. But I got to tell you, no regrets. It's a really good sounding album. The Rocktober version sounds fantastic. I'm super happy with it. But yeah, there was the whole reason I landed with that particular pressing was just because I needed some free shipping, and it was cheaper to buy that album and add it on than it was to pay for shipping. So hey man, I got an extra record, cost the company extra money, but in the end of the day, it worked out for me. So I don't know. That's the way these things work sometimes. Okay, this next album is one that I was actually hunting for. I was searching for this album, and then I found it. I can't remember where exactly I found it. I think it was some store I was browsing around, but this is a hip-hop record. So I told you, we got a little bit of everything. Kid Cudi. This is Entergalactic. This was the 2022 worldwide release on the yellow vinyl. This is the one to get. The yellow vinyl one is the one to get. It is the one that sounds the best out of my opinion. Okay, take my opinion. Everybody's ears and systems and opinions are different. My opinion is not better than your opinion, but if I was making a recommendation, the yellow version is the one to get of this one. Now, if you're not familiar, this album accompanied the animated Netflix special of the same name, showcasing Kid Cudi's sort of versatility, both as a musician and a storyteller. It's a really good, well put together album. The track that you would want to stream here to give it a go is Do What I Want. It's got this kind of catchy, upbeat, really reflecting, I think, Cudi's signature style. So the Man on the Moon series is fantastic, but Entergalactic, just get killer. It's good. The yellow one, get the yellow one. That's the one you want. Okay. Part of that local collection was also this, a Black Keys album. This is Turn Blue. This is from 2024. It's the UK Europe pressing of this album. And man, this is trippy, right? We're going to get to that in a moment. But like, you look at this album and it's like, the sober test? You know, or yeah, did you have a couple drinks? That's if you don't drink, this is what this looks like after a few. Anyway, that's my take on it. But this is the cover of this album kind of represents the work on here. It's a very psychedelic vibe, which is heavily influenced by Dan Auerbach's Divorce, sort of adding this emotional depth to the sound on the album itself. Fever is a fantastic song. It was I believe the chart-topping single that came out, blending these catchy hooks with this sort of retro vibe. Really cool track to go ahead and give a stream if you're not familiar. And what just a fun cover. I even love the color combination on here because by all rights, I don't think this should go. I don't know. I'm not a colorist, and I know people get degrees on color matching. But man, what a fun way. It's almost three-dimensional if you haven't seen this in person. It really does look like it's 3D. So cool, fun album. Okay, the next one is not everybody's gonna like. And it's not because of the music, because the music I think is good, but it's because of the artwork. It is an iconic cover, and it's an iconic cover because it's so controversial. But it is considered one of rock's first supergroups, and that is Blind Faith's self-titled album. This is the 1978 US pressing with the non-censored cover. I censored it not to offend anyone. And the reason why this is so controversial, if you're new to music or maybe new to Blind Faith, is because the lady on the cover is apparently 16 years old, and it's just not in good taste today, especially to have that type of cover. Listen, I don't know, man. Yeah, I get it. It's not a thing to support. So what you do is you make the best of it. It's good music on this record. You just cover it up, right? If you're offended by it, cover it up, or get the other pressing, the newer pressing, which has the censored cover, because ultimately this is a great, I don't know, I really like it. It's a short-lived band. It included Eric Clapton. You also have Steve Winwood on here. You got a really good song. You got Can't Find My Way Home. It's kind of this haunted ballad. It still remains a classic today, but people don't buy this album because of this cover and the choices that were made. I think it's a shame because the music on the grooves here is actually pretty good. Anyway, I took care of the problem with a little bit of a black piece of paper. It worked for me. Okay, Roxy Music, Manifesto. This is the 79 US pressing. I gotta say, it's not, to me, the best Roxy Music album. It is an album that marked the band's return after a 4-year hiatus. This kind of does blend the art rock with some danceable beats. Dance Away is the hit single that came out in the 70s. It's just not my favorite album from them. This sounds good. It sounds good. It's a good pressing of the album. It's just not my favorite album of Roxy. I think that there's other better choices out there if you want to get into Roxy. But again, I saw that was part of that guy who traded in all the records at the local. It's in great condition. The record's pristine. And I just wanted to add it to the collection. I don't know. This next one is where I might get some judgments, and maybe I'll regret saying add those comments in the beginning of the video. But anyway, this I think is just a nostalgic pull for me. I think that her music was on the radio a lot when I was growing up, and when I saw it clean, part of that collection at the local, I just had to pick it up. I had to pick it up because it's nostalgic to me. I don't know. You can even see me smiling a little bit because just looking at it just brings back memories. Maybe it's something that I put on when my mother comes to visit. I don't know. But it's Gloria, Estefan, and the Miami Sound Machine, and this is Let It Loose. It's from '87. And this album really propelled her into like this global stardom. If you're not familiar with her music, it's a fusion of Latin rhymes with pop melodies. And Rhythm Is Gonna Get You is this sort of breakout dance floor classic that still remains popular today. You'll still hear it get played time and time again on the radio. And I think that's just kind of why I picked this up. Because I remember hearing songs from this album growing up. And then when I saw it, I mean, come on. This looks brand new. It looks like it was never even touched. Probably because nobody ever played it. The guy who traded in that collection was primarily a rock guy. So I don't know how this landed in there. But it lands with me now and lives with me. And I'm very happy to have it. So I don't know. We all have those records we pick up for one reason or another. It's not because we want to be cool, and it's not because we think all of our friends are going to be like, oh my God, you got that latest album. We pick up things sometimes that are just personal to us. That's what that is. And the difference between me and probably others is I share everything with you. I share even the horrible things and the embarrassing things that I pick up because I like that transparency with you, right? We're all friends here. All right, onwards. Enough of that. Santana, Caravanserai. This is the 2024 reissue from MoFi. It's not the original one. It's the reissue. But this album was a significant departure from Santana's earlier sort of more rock-oriented work, and this really embraced sort of that jazz fusion sound. The album is a fan favorite and is often praised for its kind of like spiritual nature. It is a MoFi and it is a DSD, but it does sound good. Now, what's funny to me is that it says special edition. It doesn't say limited edition on the back. It just says special edition. This is number 368, but it is a DSD transfer, so there's that. It's not all analog, but it does sound fantastic. And I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, there was a time where I won't use the word everybody, because you never should use the word everybody. Most people use MoFi as definitive records, man. They were like the best of the best. And then all of a sudden DSD came out. The whole BS behind that, and like everybody's like, oh my God, I can hear it, it's horrible, oh my God, I always knew there was something wrong with their presence. No you didn't. Don't BS, right? You just can't, right? I mean, I don't know, a good sounding record to me is a good sounding record. If it has a digital step in it, it's kind of, I mean, listen, we all want to be diehards and we want to say we're all analog all the time. And I like analog. I like the analog sound. I'm in records, obviously. But man, I got to tell you, if you can pump out a good record and you have to use the digital step to get there, I'm not really terribly mad about it. Because once you drop the needle on the album and it sounds freaking fantastic, I don't know, I kind of forget about it. But not all MoFis have the DSD step. The next one doesn't. And it's also a fantastic sounding record. And that is The Pretenders, Learning to Crawl. Now, this is the 2012 issue, and this album was their comeback album after the tragic loss of two original band members. Which, honestly, I mean, when you pump out a record like that, it just really reflects on the resilience and the artistic growth of a band, I think. I mean, I don't know. You pour your heart and soul sometimes into it. Sometimes it works out really well. Sometimes it doesn't. We're going to get into another album later that has a tragic loss story to it, and it didn't do well. But this one did. And back on the Chain Gang is this heartfelt tribute on this album to the lost band member. Or the lost band members. So definitely worth giving that a listen. But this is analog master to analog console to lathe. So there's no DSD on this one. So this isn't all analog, MoFi. So not all MoFis are evil and terrible and digital and they sound compressed and blah, blah, blah. Okay. Continue listening to your Crosley. All right. The Black Keys, again. Another one. I don't know. I should have been smart and just put all the Black Keys together. But I didn't do that. They're just random in here. This is Thickfreakness. What a weird name. 2009. This one was recorded in a single 14-hour session at Patrick Carney's basement using just like this minimal setup, which really shows the band's kind of DIY sort of spirit, in my opinion. I think it's kind of fun because it's a cool album. It's a good album. I mean, despite how they got there, it's actually a cool album. The one song that you probably want to give a try to is "Set You Free." It's track 3. "Set You Free" I think is cool. It's a hard-hitting sort of blues rock track that I think you'll enjoy. But yeah, this one sounds really good. You know, you've heard enough about the collections. A lot of good steals. Okay, the next one album is, see, I tell you, I share everything with you, even some of the more personal and embarrassing albums. But the next one is kind of for my wife. She's a Streisand fan. And I picked this one up because we didn't have it. I didn't have a good press. And I've seen a lot of them, but I've just never seen one that was A, fair price, and B, in good condition. And this is I think, is one of the best it gets for a 1977 pressing. But this is Superman. And look how fun and innocent Streisand looks there. You know, it's got this powerful vocals, lots of versatility. It's got a mix of pop rock and ballads. You know, it's kind of this fun cover, right? The track here, all the track names are in the bottom here. The one that, you know, you probably would want to give a stream to is "My Heart Belongs to Me." I think that's the one you want to go for. I believe that was a chart-topping song that hit the radio. It really has a lot of emotional depth in there. But let's talk about this for a moment. If you've seen Meet the Fockers, which is a fantastic comedy movie, a sequel to Meet the Parents, Streisand plays the role of the mother who's a sex therapist. And I don't know. To me, this is funny because when you look at her here, and then you think about her role in that movie, it's almost like the destiny was intertwined, because this looks like it would be a book cover of hers in a movie, not an album cover of Streisand back in the day. I don't know. I just found that's just how my brain works. It connects things that probably shouldn't be connected. But anyway, my wife was happy, if you're wondering. And I know you weren't, because you don't care about my wife like I care about my wife. But she was happy that I picked that one up. So, okay, the next one also has an interesting story. Now, somehow or another, this cover is offensive to some folks. I don't think it was ever intended to be offensive to folks. I think it was intended to be playful, but it is the Meatloaf. This is the one featuring Stoney and Meatloaf. And this has Stoney Murphy on it, which her real name is Sean Murphy. These guys met, Meatloaf and Stoney met while they were performing with the cast of Hair, and they decided to put together a duet album, which is what this originated with. Now, this is not the first version of this album. The first version of this album has them two kind of standing next to each other in almost like this vintage photo look. But this album it wasn't really a good performer. It was an early album. It's a glimpse into Meatloaf's kind of early career. You know, but didn't perform that well. It was an underperforming album, even though it has this powerful vocal range that we all know Meatloaf to have. But it was before Bat Outta Hell. Now, Bat Outta Hell was the album that really launched Meatloaf's career. That's the album that I think if you're at least 30, 35 years old, you've owned that album in some sort of format, or at least have some of the tracks of that album on your playlist, at minimum. So that album came out, and then I guess the label or whatever said, hey, hold on, we can do some work here. So what they did is, not only did they change the cover to this cover with the Meatloaf face, but they also remixed the tracks. And part of the remixing is they dialed down Stoney's lead vocals on some of the tracks and amplified Meatloaf's, making him more of the star of the record. So you can have essentially two versions of this. You can have the original version, and you can have this reissue that came out, I think, the year after Bat Outta Hell, just as almost a money grab. But both are going to have completely different takes on some of the same songs. Now, they did change some of the song lists, but there are some similar songs on there, and you're going to have different takes of them. So which is an interesting record to add to your collection, especially if you have both. And if you're a Meatloaf fan, you probably already have both. But I don't know, I just found that really cool, you know? And then when I saw that and it was in good condition and the record looks like it was never played, I had to pick it up. Another Beach Boys album, this is Wild Honey. This one is from 1967, it's US pressing. This is when they return to the roots, kind of more back to basics, rock and roll, kind of standard album. And it's just more simple. It's more honest than some of the other stuff they've done. Wild Honey, which is the title track, is also this soulful, upbeat song, sort of reflecting on where the band has kind of come from. It's a good sounding record. I don't know. If you're into Beach Boys, this is a cool record to have. If you're not into Beach Boys, you probably don't care. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because there's not a lot of Beach Boys fans anymore. Even though they were as big as the Beatles at one point, if not bigger. But that's a story for a different day. Okay, Velvet Revolver. This is Contraband. 2019 Euro pressing. This is the music on vinyl. I got this one at my local as well. There's a little bit of a story to this one. I saw this at the local for probably over a month. And I always avoided it because whoever owned this put the freaking hype sticker right on a record, and it always annoyed me. And then if somebody tried to peel it off, this wasn't me. Somebody tried to peel it off, maybe the record store, but they couldn't get it peeled off. So it's forever stuck there. And I don't know, it just bothered the heck out of me. So I never picked it up. And then finally I'm like, what am I doing? It's such a good album. It's a great pressing of the album. I'm just going to get it. I'm just going to go in and get it. So I bought the record, and then literally the next day, Experience Vinyl, which is a fantastic online record store. They got like over 40,000 titles of music, announces the reissue of Velvet Revolver. So if you don't have a good pressing of this, you can go buy the reissue or pre-order the reissue on Experience Vinyl. They have, and they might still have, even a signed copy of this that they're selling as well. Signed copies, more than one. But I couldn't believe it, because even the signed copy was like a fraction of what I actually paid for the music on vinyl. And I'm just like, oh my God, why did I do that? I waited over a month. I should have waited like literally 24 more hours, and then I would have saw the email come out that they're reissuing this album. So I felt a little bit taken there. But hey, you know what? I got a fantastic pressing of a great album. If you're not familiar, this does feature members of Guns N' Roses and Stone Temple Pilots. It's kind of that hard rock, early 2000s sound. Slither, right? Yeah, Slither is the Grammy winning track here, known for this like very aggressive guitar riff. So you should definitely give it a spin or a stream if you're not familiar. But just a cool, fun album. It is the colored vinyl. I think it's red and white vinyl. It tells you on the front, right? Yeah. It's the 15th anniversary, limited 3,000 copies, one red LP, one white LP, and this is number 9. What is it? I don't know. I don't know what number it is. It's numbered though. It was low number, I thought. Oh, there it is. Right in front of me. 158 is the number. So it's a low number on the edition. Now, I don't know how this bad boy slipped in. Because normally I show all the VMP albums together, but DMX, it's dark and hell is hot. This just came out this year, 2024. This is his groundbreaking debut album, known for this raw intensity and gritty lyrics. Was sort of the cornerstone of the 90s hip hop, especially with the Rough Riders anthem, which is just an iconic track. I quite frankly, which really solidified DMX's place in hip hop history. I have a pressing of this, so I was less excited about it when I heard. I know so many people were stoked about this album. I have a pressing of it. I think it's my original pressing sounded good, but I got to tell you, VMP nailed it. Not only is the artistic work here, the cover and everything fantastic, and it's a gorgeous packaging. The record sounds great. Listen, I don't know what your take is on VMP, but they still come out with fantastic albums. That's one of them. I really feel like VMP just nails hip-hop lately. They are really nailing hip-hop records. They're doing a lot of stuff with Cicely Baston as the mastering engineer. And the fantastic thing about that is that she's like the one to have doing hip-hop lately. And I don't know, you know, as VMP kind of reforms themselves and figures out what they're going to do for the rest of their life and like get their stuff kind of together, part of me deep down inside is like, just do a whole bunch of hip hop stuff. Like, become that hip hop reissue label, because man, you guys just kill hip hop records. And there's so many cool, iconic albums that deserve a reissue that I just would love to see somebody focus on those things. Okay, this next one also kind of slipped in there, and it's Starcrawler, She Said. Now, this album brings a fresh take on punk rock with influences ranging from the Runaways and Iggy Pop. Roadkill is sort of this high energy song that showcases the youthful punk attitude. If you're not familiar, this one's going to take you a little bit. If you're into punk music, you should be giving this a go. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to do more about this album in the near future, because I have one of these to give away. And I'm going to, probably next month, I'm going to go ahead and do a giveaway. I'll talk more about the album, more about the band, and then we'll give away one of these records. So stay tuned. If you're interested, if you're into punk music or discovering new music, this is the perfect time to subscribe and notify so you get alerted when this contest goes live, because I tend to move pretty quick. My last contest that I gave a record away only lasted a week, so I tend to move pretty quick on giving these away. But with that being said, if you can't wait and you want to get your hands on this, Experience Vinyl is where you can pick this bad boy up. But just a fun punk album that maybe you're not familiar with. Maybe you are, I don't know. One that you are likely familiar with, because at least everyone has heard the powerful anthem on this song, on this album, and that's Mumford and Sons. This is Babel. This is the 2020 US Canadian release. And this album won a Grammy Award for Album of the Year back in, I think it was 2013, which really cemented the band's place in kind of folk rock. I Will Wait is the ballad I was talking about, the anthem song I was talking about, which just has this infectious energy and heartfelt lyrics. And it's honestly, it's the first song that comes to mind for me anytime I think of Mumford and Sons. I don't know why. And I love that song. I know some people say it's been overplayed on the radio. I haven't listened to the radio probably in 15 years, so I don't know. Couldn't tell you that. But what I can tell you, probably, golly, now I'm even thinking, it's probably been close to 20 years since I've been listening to the radio. Dang, it's been that long. I'm old, really old. Anyway, I just never owned this album. I don't know why. And then I came across it, I saw it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember Babel. I got to pick this album up. So I did, and I don't regret it. It's a great album. It sounds awesome. I'm super happy about it, and it's just one of those things that, you know, just takes me to a happier place, and that's what music is supposed to do. How about AFI? Black Sails into Sunset. This is the reissue, the 2024 issue. I got this one from Crafts. I think this was also another one that I added in to get free shipping. Hey, you got to do what you got to do to play the game. They make the game, you're a player in the game, and you're going to play the game well. When it's more effective just to buy an album than it is to pay for shipping, that's how sometimes these things happen. But this was actually a good grab. This is a good album to have. It marks sort of this pivotal moment in AFI's career, blending this hardcore punk with darker and more gothic influences. The track, God Called In Sick Today, is sort of a standout track known for its intensity and emotional depth. This is really good. This is the one on Neon Orange, and I think it sounds great. It's an awesome, cool record if you're into punk, and it's cool to see that it got reissued. I think it performed well. I think the sales on that reissue did really well. We're nearing the end here. I got two more, so hang in there. Thank you so much for those that did. If you enjoy, you know, just sitting down, getting yourself comfortable, drinking a good cup of joe, and talking about records, you're at the right place. And I hope to see you on future videos as a subscriber and as somebody who's part of our community. But if you made it this far and you're not a subscriber, maybe you're just, you know, I don't know what's wrong with you. Why did you make it so long and not be part of something special? Anyway, Skip James. This is his Skip James Today, part of the Bluesville. I did pick this up in my local. People don't know that. You can get these at your local. They've been ordering them in for me. It's not something they stock, but I asked if they can get them in for me, and they have been. And I've bought all the Bluesville so far from my local. And I got to tell you, man, these are awesome, awesome blues records. If you're looking for a good excuse to build out your blues collection, start with the Bluesville collection. These are awesome sounding records. About this particular reissue, it captures a haunting and unique blues style of Skip James. He's known for this like high falsetto and complex, finger picking guitar style. He's a fantastic guitar player. Really just is awesome. He's also accompanying himself on piano, which is just great. The track Hard Time Killing Floor Blues is just like this deeply moving track that sort of reflects on the hardships of the Great Depression. The great thing about blues in general is that it tells such a story. They're all story-driven songs, and they're all emotionally charged songs. And I think that if you're into that, if you like that kind of style of music, I don't know, maybe I'm just getting older, but I'm really liking more and more blues. And I'm noticing that over like the last year, my blues collection is slowly increasing, and my taste and desire to want to listen to blues continues to grow. So I don't know, maybe it's something that you just appreciate when you get older, like a good bottle of wine. But these are all, if you're not familiar, these are all AAA, cut from the original master tapes, pressed at QRP. They're backed by Acoustic Sounds. It's collaboration that they're doing with Kraft. They all sound phenomenal. I mean, people, and they're cheap. They're not that expensive. They're average price records. So that's what's really cool. You're getting fantastic quality, great records, great albums at an affordable price. What can go wrong? And your local can likely pick them up for you, so you can support them as well. All right, this last album, we're going to talk about this one a little bit as well, because this one has a little bit of a history to it. Not this particular pressing, but the album itself. And it's the Beach Boys self-titled from 1985. This is the OG from 1985. This album was the 25th studio album from the Beach Boys. Can you imagine that they released that many freaking albums? 25. But this was the first album after the drowning of the founding member, Dennis Wilson, and it's dedicated to them. It actually says back here, this album's dedicated to the memory of our beloved brother, cousin, and friend. So it's very, very sad, and point of the Beach Boys history there. What's odd is that he sold poorly, man. It had a few singles, that they tried to push out, but none of them really hit. There was no major hits on here. And it's so surprising because you got Ringo Starr playing drums on California Calling. You got Stevie Wonder played most of the instruments on I Do Love You. So you have the Beach Boys who know how to put music together. They're coming after the death of their family member and founding member. You would think this would have been phenomenal, but it wasn't. It's not a great album. I'm just be honest with you. It's got the Beach Boys vocals. It's just not a great album. It's lacking something. I don't know what it's lacking. It's just lacking something. I never really had a good pressing of this because, quite frankly, I was never interested in buying it. But I am a completionist. I like collecting the entire discographies of artists, and I have a pretty extensive Beach Boys discography going. But I never picked this one up just because I was never impressed with the music of it. There was no songs that really grabbed me. But then I saw this OG, the original pressing, and it was in fantastic shape, and it was at an affordable price because nobody buys the Beach Boys, so you could buy their albums for almost dollar bin prices, unless it's Pet Sounds. That one is ridiculous. Pet Sounds is very expensive. But I finally added it to the collection. And again, that's part of that rock that got sold, whatever, to the local shop. So the moral of the story here is, man, you can get some amazing records locally. You got some really cool, unique stuff also happening in Experience Vinyl. And you can also get some really fantastically pressed Acoustic Sounds QRP records for very affordable prices as well. So just keep your mind, keep your thoughts open. Oh, there you go, man. That's about half of the records I got sitting on my desk. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope there was some fun albums for you, maybe things that brought back some memories, maybe some albums you already have in your collection, maybe some that you already paused this video and added to your want list. I do that sometimes. I watch people talk about their new records. I'm like, oh, I forgot about that one. I added to my want list. I don't know if that's you, but if it is, share them in the comments below which ones you added to your want list. And if you have any recommendations on things I should be looking out for, I'm always to it. I've been added to my want list with some of the folks out there. You in the community have been suggesting me to pick up because it's your favorite album or something you really love or you think it's unique, or maybe it was something you stumbled on that you're like, man, this caught me off surprise. And I just want to share it with folks because if they love music, they're going to love this. I love music. Share it with me. Let's interact. Let's become friends. Listen, I have a cup of Joe here. I need to finish. I'm going to let you go, and I'll see you on the next episode.